Are you bearish on crypto for 2025? Do you believe there will be no bull run, or maybe we are already in a bear market to begin with? And particularly, do you believe there is no possible way we have alt season in the next 12 months? Well, these are all very important questions I have for you because I am going to dismantle them and all of the underlying points that make them so believable to most people. It's not an attempt at all to make you go, oh, he's right, the bull run's on, let me just go buy a whole bunch of altcoins. The point here is to objectively look at the data and myself interpret that alongside you and assess whether or not the risk and reward is favorable to be in crypto right now. It's all a risk and reward game, guys. And I guess the point here is that I do think that there is going to be a bull run. I firmly do believe that. And a lot of these points that many influencers and people you've been seeing on crypto Twitter have been saying now for the longest time is one of these 4 points. Now, I think Miles summarizes this quite well here. And the reason why I wanted to make this video today, it was actually supposed to be made in about a week's time from now, is that I've noticed a lot of influencers that were previously very, very bullish now flipping bearish. And as he says here, it feels like a full cleanse, but it's actually max pain. What we're experiencing right now is the drawn-out feeling of the crypto market moving sideways or going down in a massive sea of just bullishness, right? All these amazing catalysts. And then we've also had things like DeepSeek and also the tariffs pushing us to a point where this sideways action has turned into a massive capitulation event. And so it's leaving a lot of people, particularly beginners, very sour because they were sold the dream early on of going in crypto is going to make you a millionaire. All you got to do is buy this meme dog coin and hold it for a few months and you'll be rich. But what's happening now is not what you signed up for. So now we're getting into the point where you need to understand this is pure manipulation. And again, I'm going to try to explain this in a very visual way for you all. Now, before we start, do not forget, hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribed because this way you're going to be the most informed over the next 12 months. Now, many people are looking at the catalyst, the negative catalyst, and assuming that this is going to keep crypto back from performing well the next 12 months. We have QT, of course, currently happening. That's not a great thing as well, but this might turn around in the next few months here. People are speculating we could have quantitative easing happening sooner than we expect, but using the tariffs particularly here and also the DeepSeek news as a way to assume that the market isn't going to perform, I think is overblown to say the least. In the previous cycles, we've always had negative catalysts or reasons for the price to come down. And you damn well bet the guys behind the screen, right? The guys running the show that keep the prices down, the market makers, these guys push and push and push retail when these big events happen further to cause max pain, max capitulation to buy in lower before pumping the bags. They actually need this to happen. They need what's happening right now, a full cleanse with particularly the most bullish of influencers to keep retail suppressed, to get in lower, to pump it higher, to make you agitated and you buy in higher. Let's not forget we have some amazing catalysts that have recently come up with the new administration in the United States. We've had the Ondo Summit being particularly good for Ondo, but what that sort of brought up is that these institutions, banks, and entire nations now are accepting tokenization, and that is where the foot hits the floor in terms of immediate use cases for cryptocurrencies. Even SAB 126 was abolished, where now banks in the US can hold crypto assets without calling them liabilities. I mean, just zoom out. You're in the daily time frame, guys. You're looking daily and you're thinking, oh my God, this is the end of things. These massive wicks down. It just doesn't stop. We're moving sideways. The bullishness, where is it? It's not happening. What's wrong with the market, guys? You came into crypto for the expectation of big gains. The big gains come from a majority of losses. Majority of losses come from emotional investing. So when the market's down like it is right now and it's seemingly never going to end, that is the best point to be bullish. When there's mass euphoria, you don't want to be like, this thing's going to never stop. That is what the whales want you to, that's what the guys behind the screen want you to believe. Look at the monthly time frame, zoom out and reassess. It's as simple as that. There's been a massive amount of outflows, the most amount of outflows since April of 2024 from centralized exchanges, which is, of course, a very, very good sign. I mean, hell, even global liquidity right now is at literal highs. We've never been this high since back in the 2000s in the dot-com boom, which I've made some comparisons with. I believe this cycle we meet mass euphoria, and what comes from it is likely the immediate use case for cryptocurrencies. I believe that some point in the next bear market or after this bull run, we have that Thanos snap where most of cryptocurrencies say bye-bye. with regulation, and I think overall just more institutional interest. We're tracking just fine, guys. I've said many times this is very much so like the 2018 cycle, and I still stand by that. You compare it to the 2022 cycle, and it looks way off, but the 2022 cycle, we had a lot of stimulation come through, of course, thanks to COVID. If you have a look as well what the whales are doing versus what we retail are doing, it's pretty obvious to me what's happening right now. You can see retail is selling and selling and selling out of pure fear, which is what the large investors want because they're buying. They're buying your bloody bags, guys. This is all a part of their plan. And again, very much so like back in 2018, where these guys were pretty much buying and buying and buying. And you can see retail over here selling and selling and selling, okay? It's the same thing that happened back then, right before that massive run-up, coincidentally enough, in the price of Bitcoin. So what happened back over here, which is what is happening right now, they flushed us down. And then, of course, we went parabolic. And guess who was buying the tops? Guess who was buying the tops when the large investors were selling off in droves? We were. Again, sentiment super bearish over here, so we sell and they buy. Sentiment super bullish, they sell, we buy. Do you understand the recurring pattern here? That's why I believe this chart here is pretty accurate. I do believe we're going to have an altcoin season, and that is one of the main points I do want to bring up here that many influencers are saying are primary driving factors in terms of why there'll be no alt season. First of all, there is too many coins and not enough liquidity. There are a lot of new coins being created every single year. Most of them are redundant. Most of them are old coins from previous cycles. Most of them are just a smart contract, considered a coin, but it has no merit whatsoever, particularly around these pump.fun coins. This report back from 2024 even says this, right? Not all cryptocurrencies are active. So from the 13,000 registered coins in existence as of March 24, there was about 8,000 or 9,000 of them that were actually considered active. So there was about 4,000 or 5,000 of these coins that were redundant because they were actual coins, but they were just old or dead coins. When you have a look at CoinGecko right now, they said there's 17,000 coins. So we haven't had these multi-million coins in existence. Most of those coins are like micro caps or a series of smart contracts that have to be registered as coins. But believe you me, think logically about this, guys. Your new money coming in the space, you are not diving into the Solana trenches with these 4 or 5 digit market cap coins trying to, 100x. Gamblers love to do that, but again, that's not the majority of people. As you'll soon see here, majority of people don't go that deep. And as a matter of fact, you don't have to trust me on that. Have a look at the centralization of wealth. Wealth, you can see here, is mainly centralized in the top coins. The top 10 coins, so Bitcoin right down to rank 10, has exactly 86% of the entire market cap inside of it. If you include just the top 100 coins, it's about 95%. So 95% of all the money is in the top 100 altcoins. And when you consider they make up an accumulative 0.33% of all the coins, if you factor that there's 33,000 coins in existence, that's very, very low. While the bottom 1,000 coins, so coins past page 10 on CoinMarketCap, they make up at least 94 or 95% of all the coins in existence. But they only have less than 3% of all the money in crypto. So when the market cap goes to 10 trillion, this doesn't change, guys. We don't have a situation where, as these influencers say, there's going to be money flowing directly and evenly into all these different market cap levels, right? We don't have all this new money flow into like the bottom 3,000 or bottom 1,000 coins. It doesn't happen like that. When altcoin season starts, and believe you me, it will, and the top 10 goes down and money flows out of Bitcoin, ETH, and stablecoins into the altcoins, well, they kind of move up in tandem, but there is no sort of pulling of liquidity from these coins into these bottom coins. It just doesn't happen like that. That's not how the stock market works. Okay, you don't have like the top 100 IPO'd companies on the NASDAQ, like all that money flow out of those coins and flow directly into the bottom coins, do you? When, there's a massive liquidity push. You don't have that. Okay, what you have is the top 10 or even top 100 companies continuously gain market share, and the bottom ones kind of just move up in equilibrium. Okay, so this whole idea around that these bottom coins will suck liquidity out of the top market caps is, I think, irrelevant. Point 2 builds off that, right? So there's too many degens, people losing money in the low market caps. They're kind of sick of losing money. They're not going to go to the larger caps. There's too many meme coins and so on. Guys, again, it builds off that point number 1 there. I don't know a single person personally that dives into like these coins ranked 10,000 here, like the last page on CoinMarketCap, or better yet goes on pump.fun and starts FOMOing into every single one of these coins, again in the 4 or 5 digit market cap range. I do not know a single one. Now I get it, you might be a DJ yourself, you might do that yourself and be in the trenches, I get it. That is not the majority of people. Most people will go to a coin, click into it, and go, where can I buy it? And usually they'll only buy the coins that are on the centralized exchange that they use the most, which typically is Binance, Coinbase, Kraken, or one of those tier 1 exchanges. You'll even find the coins on page 10, which are the top 1,000 coins that are right now ranked in like the 10 mil market cap range. You'll find that people even pick one of these coins and go, oh, I've heard a YouTube video on it. They'll scroll down, and if it's not easily accessible, they just won't buy it, okay? A lot of these coins are just on dexes. That will exclude them from a lot of people. People in the low market cap ranks on pump.fund that are, looking at these AI agent projects that are very low market cap, guys, they are, looking specifically for those type of coins. There's not going to be an abundance of people at that level. Again, most people are like top 1,000 project people, right? Page 10 or up. And a lot of that's got to do with how easy it is to also buy the coins. The people at the low market caps, I actually do think that they'll eventually decide to go to the higher market caps because these people are irrational, emotional investors and traders. What they do is chase pumps. And when you have eventually a season where like AI or real world assets pop off, even the large market caps, and Ondo does a 2 or 3x, which by the way will come. We saw this earlier on last year, right? And sort of the start of 2024, these coins pumped 3, 4x quite quickly. Then they'll jump into that because they want to be a part of the bandwagon. They want to chase the pumps. The money will flow up eventually. These guys will get sick of losing to professionals at this game. Now, I have heard the occasional person say, well, the bull run's already been and done, right? Because it started in the lows in January 2023 and it finished back here in December of 24. Now, first of all, I think this is irrelevant because if you actually have a look at the crashes that do come after an actual bull run, the red candles are much larger. There's much more volume happening there than what's happening right now in terms of any sort of market dip. I think these market dips are quite small relative to crypto's usual drops. And it's just felt a lot more because there's more people in the market, more beginners, and that just perpetuates, I think, that fear a little bit further. We've had nowhere near the sizable drops we've had in the past. So if this guy's true, from the exact low, by the way, of Bitcoin being at $16,000 over here, just above my head, it has only not even 4x from that. In previous cycles from the lows, this is the last cycle, by the way, in the yellow zone, we 4x'd. In the blue zone, we about 4x'd. And then in the green zone, we still went up a further 2.5x. Obviously, diminishing returns is an actual thing, but I just don't see a world in which it diminishes like this deep. We had COVID in the last cycle kind of push the blue zone up a little further, which meant that the green zone was a bit less impressive. But I believe without the stimulus from COVID, we would have probably entered the green zone somewhere around here, giving us probably around a 3x overall. Not to mention as well, these pullbacks haven't happened. Not even a half decent size one like this. You can see over here, we had a pullback of like 30%, where recently, what people are complaining about, the largest one we've had recently is like 15%. You can see here. And if I come down here to semi-recent times from the wick to the wick, this was 30%. That was more of an extreme example. But this happened back in August of 24. So guys, I mean, look, I don't think you can say that this has been the bull run, particularly when we haven't had bull run-esque pullbacks. I get it, more money in the space, sure, but also a lot of new money as well in the space. New money is, as we now know, very reactionary. They don't think, they just go on emotion. And that means massive pullbacks, massive pumps as well. There will be no broad altcoin season, only specific niches will pump. Now, Miles recently brought this conversation up on Twitter, and I have noticed a lot of influencers also bringing this up. So be very careful of this. They'll say that there's no alt season, but rather an individual set of altcoins like AI, DeepIn, real world assets, they'll pump and the rest of the market won't. Now, I agree with the fact that we're going to have narrative pumps. I've been speaking about this for years. That's why I created the narrative ranking sheet. Those of you that have been watching my videos, well, you would have known that back in even January of 2023, we were talking about this as well on the channel. What I don't agree with is that there'll be narrative pumps and the rest of the altcoins will like stay flat stick. And I'll explain more here in a second. So essentially, we knew this, right? Way back here in 2018, the narratives kind of pumped together. There was a massive converged alt season where all the different coins, AI, DeepIn, real world asset, and so on, they pumped together. However, in the last cycle, these are more split up. You can see here some pumped over here, some pumped like 12 or So months after the first narrative, like DeFi pumped here, gaming pumped over here, we had some pumping in between, we had some pumping with Bitcoin. It was all over the shop because interest comes and goes, as does liquidity with these coins. And of course, we knew this already because even in 2024, these patterns and these cycles were already happening. You can see the different peaks here for the different types of narratives. So I think one thing Miles and many others are saying is that you need to pick the right narratives and pick the coins in those narratives that you think will perform the best, which is why I've ranked these, years ago for the private community and, of course, for you guys over here on YouTube, ranking what ones I think will do the best and trying to visualize how easy or hard it may be to pick a winning altcoin here for you all. But what I don't agree with is that there won't be much action for altcoins unless the narrative pump happens. Like the altcoin doesn't move much in price and then all of a sudden a group of coins will pump and then dump and then go back to not moving at all. I don't think that happens. I think something like this happens where the narrative will obviously happen, like AI pumps, all the AI coins pump in a massive push, and then they'll lose interest at a given time, and then you'll never have price the same again. But there are, still these movements that the coin will obviously have. It's not just going to like flatline and go extinct and have like a massive push like this. Okay, there will be interest, again, sub-narrative pumps, Bitcoin pumps, or huge news that will come and go, that will give it some relevance, but it will never ever reach the same price up here again. So we actually covered this maybe 6 months ago, and in this example here, I kind of show you with the overlay of like XRP's chart, Cardano's chart, and you can actually see this sort of wave pattern here play out like I just showed you up here. All right, this does play out, and again, you have the peak euphoria pump, you usually have a secondary pump that never is as large as the narrative pump, and then general chop. Okay, what you won't find here is a situation where it has peak euphoria, okay, goes up, comes down, and like kind of doesn't really move at all. Kind of like a heart monitor you'd find in a hospital, for example. So just remember, if a coin or group of coins have had their narrative pump collectively, it is not a good idea to get in on potentially the secondary point of the narrative pump, this secondary pump here. If they've had the main pump, I think leave it. They usually do have a bit of a pullback here, and then they go up again. That is not a good idea to get in there because you're risking potential lower upside and high risk versus getting into a coin, for example, that hasn't had its narrative pump yet, has only had a bit of general chop, where you can get in down here and experience both sides of the narrative pump. The initial pump, the pullback, and then the main pump again. You can see XRP here had the narrative pump first and then had that general chop afterwards, pump with Bitcoin and so on. Whereas a coin like Cardano actually had sort of like an individual news pump first, and then it had its narrative pump. So really, you could have played the narrative pump here, sold your XRP, and then got in Cardano down here on the lows, and then waited for its narrative pump to happen as well. This is kind of like what, guys like Miles are saying as well. And no disrespects to Miles, he's a very, very smart guy in my opinion. But not everyone can do this. Not everyone can play these narrative chops, because what you end up doing is surfing. And yes, you can be the guy that's like sitting here and being in black, again, playing the lows of the next narrative pump, waiting for it to happen. But you could also inadvertently be the guy in the red here. And I would suspect many of you beginners, like to the space, aren't going to really know this definitively. You're not going to know when it's time to, cut losses, or when it's time to take profit, or when it's time to say, okay, this coin's had its narrative pump, I better not get in. So in my opinion, it's better to just buy the big narratives of the bull run and just sit and wait for that to happen and exit and then call it a day. It's still good to assess the altcoin index, and you'll still see these guys use this, because obviously this is, created from Bitcoin's dominance falling down and altcoins going up. And all that means is that altcoins have money in them and Bitcoin has lost some money to give alts the chance to pump. So this is a good barometer for when alt season may happen. But then when alt season does happen, like these points along the line here, you'll have specific narratives and niches pop off at those times. So to be more exact, right, when you eventually have money flow out of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the top 10 altcoins and really flow into altcoins, and you see the spike here happen on the altcoin season index, it is still a valid point to use this particular chart, because what you won't have here is, let's just say AI coins start pumping. You will not have the entire market losing percentage on the daily or the weekly, and only AI altcoins gaining percentage. Okay, you will have most coins still trending upward, and you will have AI coins particularly doing well. Now, if you extrapolate the information on the altcoin season index, which I have done here, and actually show the different colored zones, so those 12-month periods, and again, the green zone is the bullish 12 months each cycle, then you can see we have an altcoin season mid-green zone 12 months. Okay, so around June of this year, and one at the very end as well. Okay. And that's, of course, because this thing does ebb and flow with the general altcoin narratives. All right. So you'll notice that there will be a massive altcoin season, usually at some point over the next few months, which you will have some of the big narratives, RWA, AI, and so on, likely have their explosive growth with macro news like Nvidia's earnings report or again BlackRock tokenizing assets on Ondo. These things will cause massive spikes, and we always have a euphoric push in the last 12 months of this last part of the 4-year cycle. Always max euphoria. And lastly, the decoupling of alts versus Bitcoin. This is a chart people have been, pulling some strings with recently. And it's interesting because, Bitcoin here in gold, altcoins in black, it looks like it's decoupled, but this actually happens quite a lot, but you just can't see that because the scale is so warped. It does happen every single time. And I made a recent YouTube video talking about this. You can see here, this black line here is Bitcoin's price, and this red line beneath it is the altcoin market cap. And we have periods where, Bitcoin goes up and alts go flat, Bitcoin goes up and alts go flat. Also, a bit further on the line here, this is more so towards, I think, 2021, the last cycle, alts go flat, Bitcoin goes up. So this happens time and time again. People just latch onto these different ideas in times of mass bearishness to kind of, I don't know if it's necessarily for clicks or attention or if it's just to try to make sense of things, but you want to be very careful just like jumping to conclusions without like looking into the data. Because again, you can like look down that rabbit hole and go, oh, wow, maybe this is actually happening, and then get caught into the trap of like that sentiment, the bearish sentiment we're in right now. If we actually have a look at Bitcoin's dominance as well, guys, what we want to look at here is this falling. Because when this falls, what typically happens is ETH goes up. And we need ETH to go up because ETH is kind of like that North Star for altcoins. Normally when ETH begins pumping after Bitcoin and its dominance grows, it's a few weeks later that altcoins begin going up as well. So we are keenly keeping an eye on Ethereum here and Bitcoin as well. Now, Bitcoin's hit the green zone we've been eyeing off here for a little while, which is important because the green zone here for the peak of Bitcoin's dominance was taken from the 2017 and the 2021 cycle, where from the halving to the very top moment where Bitcoin's dominance began falling down, how long that took. In 2017, it took 365 days. In the previous cycle, it took 245 days. And you can see here, the green zone was from 245 days to 365 days. Now, we're like smack bang in the middle right now. So in my opinion, Bitcoin dominance was likely always going to top out between these 2 points and then come falling down until this red zone here, which we've done the complete opposite in, right? The red zone takes from the halving to the actual all-time high of Bitcoin. So given that first 2017 cycle was 518 days and the cycle just gone was 549 days, we take 518 and 549, and that gives us a rough time for Bitcoin's dominance to kind of have the all-time high. So from here to there is a good few months, actually. It's around about 200 days. So this is between September to October. We can expect Bitcoin's dominance to, roughly speaking, indicate the all-time high. Now, again, that's just an indication. None of this stuff is guaranteed, but either way, we are where we need to be right now. Dominance has capped. It really has capped. So that leaves us one possible direction to go, which is down, which is very good. So ETH is what we're waiting for to kick off here. And once that, I believe, starts going up and dominance increases, I think it'll revitalize the market. We're seeing that Trump's buying ETH, Fidelity's buying ETH. We're seeing that there's mass outflows in Bitcoin, yet inflows into Ethereum. Even Eric Trump saying that it's a great time to add ETH. You can thank me later. They know what's coming. There are a few comparisons to make here as well. Like again, in these sort of like 12-month stints, we can see here that the Bitcoin dominance in orange versus the ETH dominance in purple, they tend to kind of like be already separated at the start of the green zone. But then about 3 months into the green zone, about 90 days in, you can see here, they actually converge. And this hasn't happened yet. We aren't 90 days into the green zone. We aren't in March. We're still in early Feb. So this gives us a lot of time for Bitcoin's dominance to still go down before the 90-day mark and for ETH to go up, for them to flip, and then, of course, do what they normally do, like over here. Okay, this has not happened yet. And again, this is the sort of 4-year cycle playing out. It's nothing crazy, guys. But again, remember, like the big boys know this. So it would make sense, in my opinion, that ETH has been coming down recently and Bitcoin has been going up. Because again, like I noticed that this switch needs to happen here in the green zone. I think the switch needs to happen in the green zone for one very obvious reason. We have to have that money flow out of Bitcoin, at least on paper, into ETH. We have to have Bitcoin lose dominance, ETH gain dominance, because this is what sends the altcoins into alt season. Like I said, if ETH continued above Bitcoin, that would be irregular to what was likely supposed to happen before the alt season happens, because Bitcoin is usually above ETH before the first 90 days of the green zone period, which, as you can see, was not the case recently, right? ETH has been on top of Bitcoin throughout the whole entire bear market, which was the opposite of what was happening in the previous cycle. So you couldn't have had that this cycle. I mean, how weird would that have been, having ETH on top of Bitcoin and then expecting ETH's dominance to, flip Bitcoin's? That does the opposite, right? When Bitcoin's on top of ETH, when Bitcoin has more dominance than ETH, that gives us the way for us to flip. And that flip, again, is the trigger for alt season. So, in my opinion, this actually makes a lot of sense as to why we flipped over here and as to why Bitcoin's been so in charge recently. So as long as this does eventually converge and then flip again, I'm all for it. So thank you for watching the video right to the very end, guys. I really, really do appreciate that. Let me know what you think down below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Are you more on the side of like, hey, we're going to have quantitative easing for things to ease up, no pun intended? Or do you believe that this is programmed in and the charts don't lie? Let me know. Talk to you all soon. Take good care. Bye-bye.